Guys, I have a problem. I don't know what's with these silver/white-haired girls in my gacha games, but I keep getting them, especially for Kuro games. They're making too many top-tiered silver-haired girls in both games. Well, at the very least I got Carlotta, and I'm sure no silver/white-haired girl will ever come out, ever again.
I'm Zani, a staff member here. The Montelli family ordered me to welcome you and assist with accessing your fund. May I ask where your companion is?
Oh god, no! Kuro, spare me, please! Whoa, hold up. Are I still a Lamia fan? Yes. I still think she's the best written character in PGR, and certainly best designed. But you see, in PGR, there are also some top-tiered silver/white-haired girls that are also just as great. Who says you can't have more than one best girl? And hey, at least Lamia isn't silver-haired, right? Silver lining. See what I did there? Oh god, they made a silver-haired skin for Lamia, no! We're finally here! It's crazy to think that half a year ago, Wuthering Waves just launched, and now here we are, starting the new year in Rinascita. And oh man, does this place look so amazing. It's a stark contrast from what we got in the base game. In the past few months since Wuthering Waves has been out, Kuro has been responding to our feedback, making insanely fast changes to their game to best suit their players. And you know what? It looks like 2.0 is looking to be the starting point for their up and up trajectory. But if you know me, I'm someone who endlessly complains about everything until there's nothing to complain about. And you might be thinking, wait, what is there to complain about for 2.0? I'm glad you asked. Hate to cut you off there, but there's not really anything to complain about. What? No, this patch is pretty much perfect. It's the best WoW has ever been. No, that can't be. I'm sure there's gotta be something. Nope. Nothing. Alright, maybe we should give it a bit more thought. Perhaps we'll find something starting with... As I said in the intro, one of the craziest things about Wuthering Waves is how Kuro acts really fast to dramatically improve the game, to a point where you would think that you're playing an entirely different game. And the first notable change you can see is right in front of you with the title screen before you enter the game. A departure from the heavy instrumental version of Saving Light, now we are met with a complete tonal shift where the Call Me melody being played permeates the atmosphere, giving off this subtle and inviting vibe which naturally pulls you in. This is a fascinating change to the title screen, and a welcome one for sure. But how about what happens after you get into the game? Back in my 1.3 video, I criticized the odd execution of how we got to the Black Shores. So, is it about the same here? Nope, actually getting to Rinascita is quite delightful. Instead of a preamble that gives you a bunch of random characters and plot points that exist for 5 minutes with an oddly paced way to get to your destination, the prologue has you go right away to Rinascita without all of that nonsense. You're faced with an overarching issue where your Digimon is sick, and you need to go to a land where its Sentinel can help your Digimon. Simple, but not everything is smooth sailing. Imagine if Narwhal actually played during this cutscene. Anyway, you quickly get rescued by the troop of fools who consist of a very delightful bunch. What's interesting about this is that this section is the start of the setup for the new world you're about to journey into. This will give you a sneak peek into the kind of culture you're going to be faced with. For a place known as the Land of Echoes, surely you'll be faced with a unique relationship between echoes and humans, and here's the teaser for that. They just ease you into this concept, not force it down your throat. Then, right after the troop of fools drops you off, you'll be introduced to a religious sect that holds a lot of power over this new land, called the Order of the Deep, or simply called the Order. And right after that, you're off to Raguna. Now, everything that happens in Raguna is all prologue. It's there to set the stage with the problem, the parties involved, and the lore, done in a well-paced manner, though it's pretty long, like really long. To be fair, there's a lot to get through and set up, but I will say I do find the story to be really engaging as it is. And this is owed to the fact that they spice things up by letting you experience the culture of Raguna, pulling up pretty visuals for certain parts, and putting a lot of work into character movement and expressions. Basically, there's a lot of show don't tell elements. Oh, and the voice acting. Wow, it's so good. Letting the voice actors flex in their natural accents is amazing. I feel like I'm in a different world already.
Yes, thank you for asking. The bank is short-staffed due to secondments, so I'm handling a few extra things. Normally, I wouldn't take on extra assignments, but my manager promised some paydays off, and the Montellis can be very generous. Sorry, too much. I'll do my best to meet your needs during your stay here.
But it's not just that. Ragusa itself is a very interesting and well-designed town. Obviously, this town has taken inspiration from Venice with all the waterways and gondolas, but there's also a lot of attention to detail, especially with the echoes out and about. My only criticism is that I wish this town was bigger. Regardless, this is a great prologue to get you into the new world. The best way to describe this is that it's a delightful experience. But let me tell you, you are not prepared for what this prologue leads you into, as it is quite possibly the best intro to a new land Kuro has ever done by far in this game. It's worth mentioning that this song isn't originally made by Kuro. They simply bought the rights to the song, but it's a fantastic choice. You see, the main theme of Rinascita is taken from a fairy tale by Yuri Miyazono. Here's the thing, they could have taken any song, but honestly, this is the best choice. I don't think there's any other song out there that could match the feel of Rinascita much like this one. But hey, no matter where the music is from, good music is still good music. Anyway, so about the world. When it comes to an open world game, one of the telltale signs you know it's a good world is when the world is so good, you want to live in it. Even if a world is so messed up, if done well, there will be this feeling where you might think that it's kind of badass to be in that world as long as you can survive. Whatever it may be, a world where you simply want to exist in is a good world. Rinascita is that world. This is the most impressive work Kuro has ever done, and they deserve a pat on the back. Rinascita is a highly detailed and beautiful landscape that looks like you stepped right into a European fairy tale. Not to mention how it is heavily inspired by the European countryside with a focal point on Italian architecture. But it's not only the design of the landscape and buildings, it's also the minute details that makes the world feel alive. It's an overall improvement to their world design, especially when it's stock filled with so many interesting landmarks beyond the horizon, beckoning exploration. Speaking of exploration, Kuro gave us a new tool to help us explore: flight. So one of the biggest problems back in 1.x is that we have exceptional exploratory movement, but because of how fast and easy it is to get around, it made Huanglong feel small. Also, Huanglong wasn't really that interesting to explore in the first place, and I worried that the same problem would arise with the addition of flight. But what surprised me was that flight actually made Rinascita feel huge. The design of Rinascita caters well to the usage of flight and gives off this air of confidence where Kuro wants you to see their world in the skies. And let me tell you, flying around Rinascita is a breathtaking experience. This kind of confidence to show off the world in such a way speaks volumes to what 2.0 is. A triumph. In addition to flight, there are also other nifty mobility options like the wing raise and the plushie leap. I will say that the plushie leap is a little too magnetic, but it's not that big of a deal. What's pretty cool about these mobility options is that you can occasionally combo them together, which is pretty fun to do every now and then. But what about the stuff you can do in Rinascita? Well, Rinascita is jam-packed with a ton of content. Like, it's insane how much content there is in Rinascita. Side quests, combat challenges, secrets, surprises, and puzzles. Some really fun puzzles, mind you. They took their Echo-involved puzzles a step further and took it everywhere. Though, I wish there was a bit more variety, especially in a place called the Land of Echoes. You'd think there'd be a large variety of Echo-based puzzles. For the world quest and exploration quests, it's simple to follow and understand, especially when the context is heavily built off of the main story, which makes it better. Though I do wish they were voiced sometimes, especially the one that focuses on Phoebe. At the very least, that one should be voiced. Lack of voice acting aside, it's clear how much work was put into these quests. For the exploration quests, they literally have their own cool looking area where you can revisit it after you are done with the quests. Also comes with their own unique soundtrack. As for the side quests, there's a good amount of work that's put into it. Definitely not at the level of the exploration quests, but there are still some interesting things that happen in these quests. Though, I think it's worth noting that there's some misses among the hits. For instance, there is this one quest where you have to light a torch by having a TD hit it, so you can damage an enemy when they're in the fire's radius. It's not hard, it's annoying. I don't like this, it's not fun. But hey, it's like one out of a bunch of other stuff. There's other quests in Rinascita that might make you forget some of the experiences you might not like. Like, they didn't have to go so hard for this quest. There's a lot to say about Rinascita, and I'm pretty sure my yapping is not doing Rinascita any justice here. The truth is, I don't know how else I could explain it. Honestly, Kuro's work here left me speechless. Even now, I think back and there's this feeling of being so impressed and just amazed at the work they've done that I get lost in their world. So let's leave it at that. When you get to Rinascita, you'll understand. Man, I feel like the camera angles in this story are not doing Carlotta any favors. She's so short! What shocked me the most about the story of Rinascita isn't the fact that it's really good. I mean, it is really good, but it's also really long. Normally I go through the entire story in one day, but this time around, it took me 2 days as I had to take a break after a while, which is wild. Sometimes when people talk about long stories, it usually isn't a good thing, but in 2.0, that's not the case. It just so happens that this story has a ton of content. The amount of content that we got in Rinascita felt close to having about 2 versions worth of story content. This story consists of multiple arcs that eventually get put together, leading up to the final arc, all the while showing off the new world Kuro has crafted. And almost every second of it was really compelling and engaging. Well, almost. First off, the Vault arc. This was really cool, but honestly, I think they could have done more with the freeze gem mechanics. Imagine if they gave us a few more puzzles that progressively gets more and more complex. It'd be much more interesting because as it stands, it's rather straightforward. I don't think it'll hurt to have a touch of complexity to your puzzles. I'm not asking for anything hard, but I do think what we have right now is pretty rudimentary. As for the running section, well, I'm glad it made its return from the 1.3 section, but as cool as it is as a spectacle, it's just a cutscene with some QTEs. I sort of wish we had a bit more control over the running section, as the lack of control makes the experience somewhat distant. Not to mention, I didn't really feel any of the stakes of what if I fail. That doesn't mean that the Vault arc was bad, but a part of me felt like there was potential for it to be something more. That's the small stuff. I'm not going to expect much out of it. It's just my own lingering thoughts. Let's talk about the stuff that I feel didn't hit right for me. The Dragon of Dirge arc was probably the lowest point for me in the story. In part because of the hiding for the dragon with Rochia section, I really could not care for this part. It was whatever, and in the end, we still ended up killing the dragon. I felt like there was this false sense of fear going like, oh no, this dragon's very dangerous. But right after that, we just kick its ass. Then there's the Troop of Fools section right after. Honestly, I could do without the first half of this section with the former laureate. Messing about and helping the dude out, what a waste of time. I'm pretty sure I learned nothing out of a dude asking the sentinel what he should eat. Especially after dealing with the Order and then the dragon, we finally found a potential lead about the mystery behind the sentinel, only to get nothing out of him. It made me wonder, what's Carlotta up to?
Yes, thank you. The Order's scheme was uncovered as planned. Uncle Capilet was rescued, and Grandfather has handled the rest.
Oh god, this again. Why is it that there are times where the interesting stuff gets explained away instead of having us experience it? This is like the time Camellia explained her side of the timelines that she experienced, but all we get is a slideshow. Let me experience it. Just knowing something more interesting is happening while I'm listening to an old man talk about the good old days forced a long sigh out of me. Again, it might be nitpicking, though it's been on my mind for a while now. I really don't like this. But do you know what I do like? Abby. This story gave me a new appreciation for Abby. Originally, I thought Abby was going to be like Paimon, who is going to regurgitate information or speak for you while being brewed at random times. Of course, that's not what ended up happening. In the 1.x cycle, Abby was a bit absent, so I wasn't sure anyone knew what direction they were going to take for her. But in 2.0, there seemed to be a shift in how Abby was handled. Abby is not only a plot device, but also a full-on character that complements Rover. And the way they did it is by having Rover be more involved in the story through dialogue. In Rinascita, you may have noticed that Rover talks more than any other patch. And this is a good thing. This establishes that Rover is so much more than a plain self-insert character, and places Rover as a character who is actively participating in the story. And it's not that Rover hasn't been active in the stories prior, but it's much more significant where dialogue is concerned. So how does that play into Abby? Well, there's no need for self-insert assisted dialogue, which opens up Abby to be a character. But let's be honest, Abby was never a self-insert assisted dialogue character. She kind of existed while giving us reminders that she was important and then disappearing from the plot every now and then. Here in the Land of Echoes, Abby appears more often and plays a participating role alongside Rover, not only serving as her very own character, but also as Rover's counterpart.
Livia, Breno, any sign of Beppe? Strange. Where could Beppe be? Oh, cut it out, Breno! Stop that! Wait, Breno's right here. Then who's poking me in the back? Beppe, you better have a good
Nah, Beppe, it's me, Abby!
Oh!
That's enough, Abby.
Lame. I was just trying to have some fun with her.
I actually like this approach to Abby. That said, I hope they have Rover voice more lines and continue to play an active role like she is doing now, as this provides more opportunities to create more individuality for our protagonist and continue to flesh out Abby as a character. Also, there are times when Rover doesn't get voiced, which is a bit off-putting and gives it that unfinished feel, considering that there are a lot of times where she is now voiced and other times where she isn't. Speaking of voicing characters, the voice acting here is amazing. I know I've made this point once before, but I have to say it again. It's so much fun to hear the diverse accents and superb voice acting that complements it. It really pulls you in. When it comes to straightforward dialogue, all you need is good voice acting to deliver the personality of the character without telling you what that personality is. With the exception of Rochia. I do not know what she's trying to be. At one point, she's timid and shy, and the other, she's normal and chill. I am not sure what to get out of her. Finally, one last thing I do want to praise again is Kuro's effective use of visual storytelling. You may have noticed that almost every scene seems to operate on a similar rule. When it comes to any scene filled with dialogue, there's usually some form of motion from expressions to minor movements. In fact, what I find very noticeable is that there's a lot of excellent camera work that would subtly direct your attention to places that would help your understanding. Every scene is interesting to look at, including some of the visuals. It keeps you engaged, and not once do they insult your intelligence by explaining everything. On top of that, with how good the pacing is, not once are we overwhelmed by the amounts of information we receive. In fact, they give us time to contemplate over the information, wondering what is true or what is false. The way information is being conveyed to you is crystal clear and is very much needed. They simply tell you what you need when you need it. Though there is one small issue I should point out. You see, when characters are talking while you are traversing, it seems like they have a lot to say, but getting from point A to B is short, which leads to their dialogue getting cut off. That means that there's a chance you might end up missing out on some important information. Honestly, they need to find a way to fix that because it's weird and I ended up trying to make donuts into water while Carlotta was talking. Well, maybe I was a bit more invested with the donuts really.
Oh my god, she's so small!
Hey, remember in the last section where I said that the story quest has some excellent camera work? Well, Carlotta's character quest also has some exceptional camera work, though I will say that sometimes the camera does Carlotta a bit dirty with her short stature for both the main story and her character story. It's not a criticism, I just find it's funny, that's all. See, this is just a mean camera angle. Looks like two moms bringing their daughter to a bank to open an account. This camera angle, it's pretty decent, doesn't stress the height too much. This one is straight up mean. Look at Rover bending down. And this one is really good. As you can see, when it comes to camera work, you can still make unflattering angles for short people. Again, not a criticism, I'm just joking around. So here's the thing. I honestly think that the main story quest is better than the Carlotta character quest. But the way I see it, the character quest is more like an epilogue for the main story, but it focuses a bit more on the Montelli family. Even so, not gonna lie, I was a bit bored from the first half, and really, there were times where I felt like I'm either wasting my time, or this quest is seriously insulting my intelligence. Man, I wonder who the big bad of this story is. Wow, imagine if this guy is important.
Look at her! She's so small!
I was really hoping for a mafia-like story where every line of dialogue is filled with a lot of tension and stakes, but this was really whatever. Don't get me wrong, Carlotta's backstory and the way they told it in the latter half was fine, but the first half felt like it was a bit of a dip, especially after coming from a spectacular high from the main story. All that fetch questing and going back and forth really set this quest back. So yeah, this story is pretty mid. I guess it's worth noting that I can appreciate that Carlotta is more of a flirtatious type and isn't someone who wants to suck Rover off like the other characters in the past. Instead of being off-putting and a bit forced, the chemistry between Carlotta and the Rover is built up, so it's certainly an improvement, but overall, the quest is still nowhere near perfect. But hey, look at this alternate skin for Carlotta. It looks so good, and she's still short. We need this. You know what? I'll shell out money for this one. And you know what? It's definitely a possibility that this skin will be a thing. If there's one thing Kuro is known for, it's white-haired girls. That and twin tails and open bags. They have a thing for that too. I still can't get over the fact that Alpha's jacket has an open flap on the back for no apparent reason. Or maybe there's a reason, I don't know. It looks weird to me, that's all. But if there's another thing Kuro is known for, then that would be making some amazing skins. That said, I'm in a bit of a pickle. So it looks like we got a potential Carlotta alternate skin on our hands, but more importantly, Jinxie's skin is here. And I like Jinxie, but god, what if there's better skins in the future? Okay, let's back it up a little bit. So yes, Kuro finally did it everyone, skins are here, and they're starting out with a bang with Jinxie's New Year skin. Stock filled with special effect changes and a special banner. All for a meager price tag of around 50 bucks. Yeah, sounds like a hefty price, but hey, this skin comes with a bunch of stuff, so it's worth it. You might think this is like a special occurrence, but here in PGR land, it's just another Thursday. This is why I feel like I'm in a bit of a pickle, because I'm already spending money on skins in PGR, and now Kuro wants my money in Wuwa. But you know what's crazy? If Kuro does exactly what PGR is doing, oh man, we're in for a wild ride, because this is only the beginning. I'll bet there'll be better skins that will come out later in the future. Yup, skins can actually get power crept. Anyway, let's talk about something I found interesting surrounding skins. Kuro implemented a dedicated section for skins for every character, including Rover, which is who I want to talk about. To be honest, Rover feels like a character that absolutely belongs in Huanglong, but when we dump Rover into Rinascita, Rover stands out like a sore thumb. I'm sure we'd be happy if we have some Rover wardrobe changes that is tied to each region. I do like the fact that we can change Rover's gender and add accessories to Rover. That's great. But imagine if we got a whole makeover every time Rover steps into a new region. This would add some more expression to our own character, and hey, might as well break the monotony of seeing Rover look the same for the entirety of the game. Anyway, I just wanted to say skins are out now. Personally, I'm going to hold out on getting Jinxi's skin because I will guarantee there will be amazing skins that will make Jinxi's skin look like a basic skin. But hey, at the end of the day, they're just skins. They won't make your character stronger. It's just for looks. It's also your money, so it's up to you how you want to use it. As for me, I simply have to face the fact that I'm already planning to buy skins in PGR, and now that I think about it, I dread doing that for both games. On the bright side, it looks like we're going to get free skins for our 4 stars, and the one we're getting in this patch looks good. So there's a lot to look forward to. I often say that Wuthering Waves has the best combat in the market, which is why I tend not to talk about it in most of my videos because there's not much to criticize. But there is a bit of a problem, and that's gun characters. Let's be honest, they're boring, samey, can't parry, and not exactly interesting. The only redeeming thing I can say about them is that Alto's kit looks cool, but I've seen better. And it's not like they're useless. I mean, Mortefi is quite useful for the team, but man does he suck to use. Overall, range gameplay is a bit rough. And it's not like it's a Wuthering Waves specific issue. Other games have faced this issue before. Even Kuro's other game has an oddball problem with it as well. And trust me, Hoyo isn't any better. It's just that the distance and interactivity of the character fighting against any enemy feels rather limiting, and it gives off this distant feeling. But the thing is, Kuro has figured out how to make gun gameplay pretty fun, introducing Lee Hyperreal from PGR, answering the question of, how do I turn a gun character into a melee character? No wait, that's not Lee. Yeah, get out of here, Watanabe. You're a melee character that just so happens to have a gun. Lee Hyperreal has an interesting gameplay loop where he actively closes the gap and also creates distance from his enemies with his arsenal. His movesets create an engaging feel that breaks the monotony that a character with a gun would have. Sure, at its root, it's just a dude who shoots a gun at the enemy with some flourishes. But here's the thing, that's all you need. I struggle to look at this and say that this is engaging gameplay. It's not the rule of cool, and it certainly pales in comparison to characters who uses other weapons. Going back to Lee, what brings everything together is his core passive that allows him to have a very fun and engaging gameplay loop that the player can cycle to bring out his full potential. And if you look carefully at his visuals, you probably might have noticed something rather familiar. And you also probably know what I'm getting at. Yes, Carlotta's moveset is a callback to Hyperreal's gameplay, but it's much more than that. It takes on his gameplay philosophy of actively engaging combat and applies it to Wuthering Waves with a touch of personality. Her loop of generating moldable crystals to build her forte, which would lead into a strong heavy attack, makes it truly engaging as you're actively using your opponent to satisfy this loop. And of course, her really sick ult that is reminiscent of Lee Hypermatrix. It's so good. I am so glad they're taking inspiration from PGR's combat, because this is what we've always wanted. This also means that Alpha's gameplay is totally not out of the question for Wuthering Waves. If that happens, oh, what a time to be a Wuthering Waves player. If you followed my So the Thing About series, there are times where I come off as a nitpicky Mr. Complainy guy. And to a certain extent, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. The whole purpose of this series is to take a step back from all the hype and praise and point out the issues that still need some work, because let's be honest, Wuthering Waves still need some work. But at the same time, I think I'd be giving Kuro a disservice by not praising the great amount of effort that has been put into a 2.0, because more than half the stuff that was in this patch, they didn't have to do, but they went above and beyond what we could ever expect from them. But in the same vein, there's still some more work to be done, so let's talk about the little things, starting with the immersion mode. We asked for no HUD, here we go, no HUD. Well, sort of. As you can probably tell, we have our user ID and the eyeball button to turn off immersion mode. It's still somewhat usable, but really, we could do with nothing on our screen. The worst part is that the button prompts to turn off immersion mode cannot be used to turn it back on. You need to navigate some menus to do that. Talk about backwards design. What they should do is do what they did in PGR, where in that game, we can fully customize our HUD. Hell, even customize it to a point where we can control our icon placements. That would be sick if we had it in this game. Besides that, we should also have the option to maintain immersion mode. You see, logging out and back in or a tutorial pop-up will turn off immersion mode, which makes it a bit annoying. At least it was fun to watch my friend play an entire quest with immersion mode on. It was quite funny. Now here's the next thing I want to talk about. Let me use my flight tool in Huanglong. I made it to Rinascita. I deserve to fly around Huanglong. It'd be so sick. I'm not a fan of flight being region locked to Rinascita. I understand that Huanglong was not designed for flight, but at the same time, we already explored Huanglong without it, and now that we have it in 2.0, we should be able to go back and experience flying through the skies in the base area. It gives us a reason to go back and chill in the older regions. Hell, it feels like crap when you have something so good, then they take it away in other regions. If you're so afraid that this will cheapen exploration, I have a suggestion. Instead of region locking, do exploration percentage lock, like what they did with flight stamina. Have players explore 20 or 40% of a region and then they'll unlock the ability to fly. Simple as that. And honestly, I hope flight is not region locked to a point where we can't use it in future regions, because that would mean that Kuro just shot themselves in the foot. Seriously, what's better than flight? And if you say land vehicular travel, you'd be wrong. Yes, we have land vehicles, but much like real life, do you know what we still wish for? Flying cars. So what can be better than flying? At this point, if you're taking flight away from us, you better give us space travel because there's nowhere else left to go. Otherwise, moving forward, everything is going to feel like a downgrade. Finally, the music echo. What is the point of this? Sure, I like collecting the music notes as if I were chasing music sheets back in Assassin's Creed 4, but at the same time, unlocking music is sort of pointless. And here's why. The range of which the music that plays is extremely small, the music itself resets to default every time you leave the loadable area, and there's some OSTs that are still missing. Sure, it makes sense why A Fairy Tale by Yuri Miyazono isn't there, considering I have no idea what the deal is surrounding the rights of the song, but tracks like the smooth jazz-like soundtrack for Carlotta's quest is nowhere to be found. Look, the music in 2.0 is really good. A huge improvement from 1.x, and I'm glad it's here to show off their favorite tunes, and it also includes the previous patch's OSTs. However, when I read set as background, I expect it to encompass at least a loadable area, permanently until you can change it. Not have it be this far. This comes off as useless. Taking inspiration from RuneScape's playlist feature, I'd say give us a gadget where we'd be able to create our own playlist. We should want to listen to our own lineup of favorite tunes on the go. Oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. I should have put this in the skin section, but I'll add it here because I'm lazy. Rinascita character masks. It's clear that there's some attention to detail when it comes to some of these masks, especially with Carlotta. If we can put a mask on for Rover, we should be able to do that for Carlotta. It's already cool that you can see the mask in the ultimate animation, so let me keep the mask for my Rinascita characters. But yeah, as you can tell, they have some good ideas, but oddly enough, the execution didn't allow these ideas to reach their full potential. 2.0 may be great, but there's still so much more they can do. So here's the thing about version 2.0. This is the most impressive patch I have ever seen by far from Kuro. It's pretty clear to see that they went around taking all of our feedback and implementing it in 2.0. But not only that, they went above and beyond. There were some things they didn't have to do, but they ended up doing it because they wanted to, whether it be the secrets or little details that were put into the world. Do I still want to see the kind of world that was created in PGR in an open world space? Yes. But I think the tonal shift that came from Rinascita is just as good, even amazing rather, so much so that I would be close to recommending that you try Wuthering Waves just for Rinascita. Keyword, close. The problem is, 1.0 still exists, and personally I would feel like a complete moron to tell someone to play a game where it starts off poorly and I have to constantly remind them that it gets better later. There's zero justification for me to put someone through anything like that, not just for Wuthering Waves, but for any game. What matters to me is that you should always put your best foot forward, and that's not 1.0. When I played 2.0, as much as it impressed me, the fact that 1.x is the way that it is still lingers in the back of my mind. So I feel like they have to change it. Anyway, let's not dwell on the past and let's look ahead. In a recent interview with Solon, he mentioned that he wanted to pull out a big patch every 6 months. So don't be surprised that 2.1 isn't going to be at the level of 2.0. Though, I'm still going to be very anal about every patch because I want every patch to be a success no matter the size. Even so, can't wait for the next 6 months where hopefully they can replicate the same success that they have with 2.0 and make it even better. Well, I've yapped long enough now, so if you excuse me, I'm going to try to 100% Rinascita. When I make it to the other side with this tub. It'll take a minute. While I'm making my way there, why not give this video a like and subscribe, because if you do, Phoebe will come home early. Trust me, it will work. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!